so excited to film the next 3 videos actually, because I'm going to be away for 2 weeks in Nepal, and I want to make sure that there's a lot of information and content for you to watch. My goal would be that you would keep a journal, and that after watching a number of these videos, you would have a lot of information in there, tips, maybe quotes, or things that you feel really impacted you, really stood out for you, and that slowly we can start transforming together. So what I wanted to do today was really talk about 3 things, and they're all interconnected. Because this is coming from my heart, and I care so deeply about what I'm talking about and what I'm doing in my own life, I want to speak to you guys the same way that I do to my children. And so a lot of that is really simple terms, because I don't like to complicate things for them. I always try to speak to them in a way where they never feel less than, or that I'm talking down to them. This is what I've learned, and this is what I want to share with you so that your life can be much easier, can flow much smoother than mine did. So the first thing that I want to talk about is light and dark. What does that mean? Okay, are you ready for this? I know this is going to be a lot for some of you. It was for me, actually. It was really hard for me to understand this at first. So we all have light and dark inside of us. So some people call it duality. Some people refer to it as polarity, where we have like the 2 extremes, right? Love, hate, hot, cold. Some of us yogis refer to as light and dark. Dark is also shadow or ego. And so I knew first that something like this existed when I was a child. I remember being a little girl and recognizing the thoughts that I was having. And they were horrible thoughts. I was thinking the most terrible things towards other people. And I remember stopping and thinking, if anyone knew what I was thinking, they would put me in jail, because my thoughts were so evil and bad, and I didn't know why, because deep down it didn't match. Something didn't match inside of me. And so it was making me feel really weird. Like I couldn't understand why I was having these horrible thoughts, but deep down I knew I was a good person. And so that was my first introduction to knowing that we have good and evil, light and dark inside of us. And in order to appreciate the light, we must have the dark. In order to recognize the dark, we have to recognize that there is light even inside the dark. So do you guys know about yin and yang? There is dark in light. There is light in dark. Another way that I like to picture it for myself is, those are the arms. I'm really bad at drawing, by the way, in case you haven't figured it out. Okay, so this is how I picture it for myself. That there is a line going down the body, okay? One side is dark. This is the ego side. One side is light. This is where love resides. This is your heart, okay? Your mind is connected to the dark side. Your heart is connected to your light. I want to give you an example. So I was at yoga class, and so I'm in yoga. Here I am as a yogi. I love the world. I have so much love for myself, and I went to practice yoga, and next to me is a teacher who I love and adore and respect. And here we are in the yoga class, and we're all balancing. We're all doing a toppling tree. I don't know if you guys know that pose, but you're literally balancing on one leg. And so I'm balancing there, and my teacher falls out of the pose. And I catch myself in that instant, in a split second, my mind says to me, "Ha! She fell out of the pose, and look at you, you're killing it. Look at you, you'd haven't fallen, and that's the teacher, and she fell." So that's the first second. The second second is me saying, "Be quiet, mind. That's my teacher. I love her. I look up to her. I've learned so much from her." And that's where the duality comes in. Do you see the example where I was on my mat balancing, and I was having an argument with my mind, because my mind went to the judgment. My mind went to the competition in thinking that somehow I was better than her. And then my heart said, "No, that's your teacher who you adore. Don't say that," because yoga is about falling out of the pose and getting back into it. Yoga is not about being able to stand on your head for 10 hours. That's not what yoga is about. Yoga is having love and compassion for the people around you and realizing that we are all the same. So hopefully that was an example where you can see the difference between light and dark and how we all have it inside of us. And when you start to recognize that that exists inside, take away the focus from outside, from the external world, and we're taking the focus inside. And we're starting to recognize that we have these thoughts, and these thoughts never ever go away. These thoughts are with us 24 hours a day, and sometimes we don't understand why we have these thoughts, because it's not who we are. And so I think that for a lot of us, we feel feel sadness, depression, we feel disconnected within ourselves because our brain is telling us one thing, but our heart is telling us something completely different. So when you start to recognize that this duality exists, that is inside of us, you can start to recognize the thoughts, the emotions that come with living within the ego. And so the shadow, the ego, is really sabotaging us. Our own mind is sabotaging us. We call it self-sabotaging, where we have thoughts where we're not good enough, we're competing with other people, and so we're judging others. You know, if you can catch yourself moment to moment, how many judgments you make from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed. I know I'm guilty of it. I'll be driving my car and I'll see someone with like really weird boots and I'll think, wow, those are weird boots. And then I'll catch myself having that judgment saying, wow, that's not cool. That's none of my business. Who knows why they're wearing those boots? That's okay. They can wear the boots if they love them. And so when you start to recognize that the ego is fooling us, the ego wants us to live in fear. The ego wants us to live in doubt. The ego wants us to look around us and be ready to jump and attack. We're living from this point where we're ready for anyone to attack us. But when you're living from the light, from the love side, you realize that all the control comes from inside of you. The ego is addicted to drama, whereas the light doesn't need the drama. The light sees through the drama, and they don't want the drama because there's nothing there. There's nothing of value. The love side recognizes that there is abundant love inside and that there is more than enough love for everyone around. And you may actually interact with people, and when you start to recognize this duality, you will see people who are living from their ego side, where their ego is not developed. It may be that they're acting as a child and they're an adult. People who, if you say something to them, right away they get defensive and they jump and they're ready to attack. Whereas people who live from the light, from their heart, are more open, they're more giving, they're more understanding, they're more compassionate, and they have empathy for themselves and for others. And so this, to me, I think is one of the biggest transformations in recognizing what it means to have peace inside of you and happiness and joy, is recognizing that we have these two extremes. We have light and dark, and it exists in all of us. It doesn't matter who you are. One of the biggest takeaways for me was recognizing that that exists and catching myself when my ego is front and center. And so the ego wants us to think that we are the center of the universe, that we are the star of the show, that everyone else in the world are just supporting actors, and you know, it's all about me. Never mind what you need, it's all about me. And so start to recognize if this is a habit for you, if these are your patterns, if you are living from a place of ego, don't judge yourself, just recognize it. Recognize your actions, recognize the way you're thinking from the moment you wake up in the morning. Are you living more from a positive outlook? Are you waking up and being optimistic, positive? Are you seeing the good in everything? Are you practicing gratitude? Are you thankful? When you are driving and someone wants to get in your lane, do you allow them to get into the lane, or are you rushing to get in front of them because, you know, 2 seconds makes a difference? It doesn't. In order to find joy and happiness and peace within ourselves, we need to connect more to the light component and recognize that the dark is there. Be willing to observe it, welcome it to the table, but we're not focusing on that side. We're not giving that side any attention or energy because it's just going to leave us with no energy. When we focus on the ego, we can never find happiness because the ego wants us to continue living and vibrating at our lowest with fear, with depression, with drama. When we live from our ego wants us to believe that we are not enough, that we will never be enough, and based on our experiences from the past, that we will always be that person and that we can never change, when in fact we know that that's not true. We can become anything that we want to. We can completely transform our pain, whatever we suffered in the past, and transform it into love. And that is the true gift of alchemy. And speaking of alchemy, I would love for you guys to pick up this book, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And he wrote this book. I can't even explain what this does. When you complete the book and you figure out that what he was searching for was there all along. And so for us, we're searching in the world. We're looking for attention, validation. Again, that's ego, right? The ego needs attention and validation from other people, when really all the love and attention for ourselves is already within ourselves. We just need to tap into it and find it and welcome it into our lives. Thanks for watching, and the next video is going to be in continuation to this, and it's all going to be about this thing that doesn't stop.